Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GLP's 10 out of 10. And today we have with us Robert T. Barnhart, or Bob to many, an American lighting designer specializing in the field of television. He's the co-founder of Los Angeles-based design firm 22 Degrees, which is a cooperative of experienced and award-winning television and live event designers who work all around the world. Now, just before we get into listing some of Bob's credits, what's interesting to really take note of is the volume of his work on so many different events. For example, he's been the lighting designer for Miss USA and Miss Universe, not once, but for 12 consecutive years. Or maybe we can mention the highly successful show, So You Think You Can Dance, for which Bob was the designer for 16 seasons, including 2 where he was the set designer as well. But that's just the beginning. It really is. He's directed or designed the lighting for 5 MTV VMA Award shows, 12 ESPY Award shows, 22 seasons of the game show Family Feud, 12 Grammy Award shows, 22 annual Academy Award shows, you know, the Oscars, and an absolutely incredible 21 Super Bowl halftime shows. And there is much more besides that. This is really just scraping the surface. There's sporting events, fashion shows, live concert broadcasts, Olympic events, and on and on and on. In fact, if you go and look at his IMDb listing, it's longer than most A-list actors. The depth of the volume of work is just astounding. And to prove that, Bob has received 44 Emmy Award nominations and won 12 Emmy Awards. All right, I think I'm running out of paper now. So Bob says that he enjoys being driven to find the right design for his clients in any venue, in any country, and basically on just about anything that might be called a stage. Welcome, Bob Barnhart.
Wow. I'm so glad you write that introduction. This explains why I look this way and I'm only 32 years old, though.
It's incredible. It's amazing when you look at it and just go, that's 21 Super Bowl halftime shows, for example, is just astounding. Well, either you're a glutton for punishment or you just must immensely enjoy them.
I go with first. I like a challenge.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, it doesn't matter how experienced you are in this industry, you've got to work on one to understand it. It's so hard to explain to any veterans who haven't been there what loading in a show with 500 people in 7.5 minutes is like, and the fact that you're never comfortable, right? I mean, people ask you on game day, you're sitting around forever. You have to get there like 10 a.m., but your game is probably 7 p.m. is probably halftime, but you got to get there before everybody else. So you can't get in.
Yeah.
So you're just standing around this compound, waiting for the order to attack, and people are like, "You good? You comfortable? You comfortable with tonight?" I'm like, "No. We haven't loaded in yet." The wheel could break on the first cart coming out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And, now what am I doing?
And then, right.
My follow spots could explode, whatever. I've lost headsets before to the lead follow spots 2 minutes before we went live. I never got them again. I called them on their phone. It was, the things you go through on that, you lose years.
Yeah.
So, but I like a challenge. They've been fun.
Yeah.
We've had some good moments. I think the team's done some good work.
Absolutely. I think it's just, you obviously got better and better. And you've always been a fan of embracing new technology on each of the shows as they come along. A few years ago, you were one of the first when we were using the Intel drones on, that was the Lady Gaga performance.
We did the first mass flying of Intel drones on Super Bowl 51. I talked Intel into inventing indoor GPS so we could do an indoor lantern festival 2 years later and spelled out One Love.
Yeah.
Now there's probably not the best show to be trying new technology out that's never been used before, but if you're going to try something new, why not just do a small show that's only 12 or 13 minutes, right? You don't want to do it on a large show where you could really screw up.
Try and do it on one where nobody's watching, right?
You have to know who's watching.
That's right.
It's between the second and third quarter, so who's watching?
Right, that's right. Everyone's off getting wings and pizza, right? So, I'm sure we're going to obviously touch on some of the other things that you've done through the course of the questions. So I'm personally really looking forward to this as well. So if we obviously a phenomenal career to date, but if we wind all the way back to the beginning for our first question, what was your first show as a designer?
So I'm going to assume you mean as a lighting designer, but the first show as a designer, I just happen to remember it. I had a friend when I was 17. I had a friend who was like in some type of like 4-H group or something, and he was in a competition doing one act, like 10-minute pieces, and there was going to be 7 different groups. And he asked me to be the set designer. And the only reason I bring it up is it was Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, and I designed the house to be one of the dwarfs' hats plopped on the ground, and then his eyes were 2 of the windows, and his mouth, his nose was the door. I borrowed 2 picnic benches, and with a really clever use of cardboard and brown paint, I made them into logs so they could sit. And I only bring it up because I actually won an award for it. I didn't know there was an award for it. It was like the certificate. I should have it, right? I should print it. That's the only award I'm going to get for sets. But I'm going to guess you mean lighting designs.
Wow, so award-winning shows is incredible. I should have.
Well, yeah,
I should
it is.
Put that down next to all the Emmys.
So the first, I find this hard to believe, which is why I'm going to tell you the story. The first show, believe it or not, as a television lighting designer, just because that seems to be the subject for me, believe it or not, was Super Bowl 32 halftime show.
Okay.
And I thought it was completely nuts that these producers asked me to do the show. So I had gaffed 2 previous ones for Bob Dickinson. Then I was like a lighting director on a 29 or 31, sorry. And then Bob was busy on something. I don't know if it was a Grammys collision on schedule. Something happened and he couldn't do the halftime show. So the same producer that had been doing the shows just turned to me and said, well, we should just have Bob do it. And I'm thinking, you've never seen me design anything on TV. Right. As a matter of fact, neither have I. I mean, sure, lighting director on a lot of shows, lighting director in the sense of like, focusing all the lights, metering everything, balancing things out. But to be honest with you, sitting in the truck and making, last minute design decisions and fixes and things like that, I had not done. I was comfortable with Super Bowl because I'd been there already, but yeah, I thought it was kind of nuts. I really did think it was kind of nuts. And overall, it went fine. It was, it was San Diego, so it was partial, it was like dusk. So, there was, we killed one half of the stadium lights, I think, and did a lot of razzmatazz on the stage, but I still, it was pretty nuts. I absolutely do not want to see a tape of that show. It's going to remember.
Right.
I kind of look at a lot of my shows like open casket funerals. I don't really want to see them that way. I just want to remember them the way I remember them. If I thought the show was horrible, I might come home that night and watch it to make myself feel a little better. But if I thought it was decent, I don't watch it.
Really?
Otherwise, I'm going to find every imperfection and it's going to drive me crazy. So I don't want to see Super Bowl 32, but that was my first TV show.
Wow. And but again, that's an incredible show to get your first, design credit for as well. I mean, it's consistently 100 million viewers, and amazing. And obviously, like you said before, a lot of pressure. I guess not just for the lighting, but for all of the elements, the set, the logistics of getting on and off the field, the audience, all of it.
And honestly, logistics outside the stadium for production are just as difficult as the logistics of getting on the field. It's a Super Bowl. And as time has gone by and security has become more important and things like that, it has become more difficult just to do your job. I mean, look at last year when they put 700,000 watts of green grow lights on the field because they chose to use natural grass in the stadium that can't grow grass.
Right.
The logistics of going up against this massive sporting event. And I will say the NFL cares more about the halftime show than they used to when we first started. But it is still, you're still kind of the stepchild. They'll help you, and they've come a long way from where we started. Whitney Houston gets credit for giving us center follow spots. We were always like 20-yard line coming in like this because they would never want to give us center, good like 22 degrees, just as a little plug. But but she came in and was going to sing the national anthem, and at that time we didn't participate in pregame. It was just stadium lights. Pregame didn't come into play until about, I want to say like 9 years ago. And she looked at a tape of herself under the stadium lights, which were steep and nasty. And, and she said, I'm not doing it.
Right.
So the NFL came and said, can you make it look better? I said, absolutely. I need the spots where I've been asking for spots. This is, I believe, Super Bowl 33.
Hmm.
I just need the spots where I've been asking for spots. And they're like, you got it. It's not a problem. So we got 2 spots right there. And ever since then, we've graduated up to 4 spots in that hero position, and straight in the back too, because the back spots were also off to the side, which is just a little much if it's a woman performing. So so a lot of people get certain credit. Madonna gets credit for getting us Friday rehearsals.
Okay.
I don't want you to think these people didn't bring anything good to the industry. They actually did.
They all helped contribute as well.
Yeah, except for last year we lost Friday, but that wasn't her fault.
Right. That was because of the grow lights, right?
It was because the grass wasn't grown.
Right.
Because grass doesn't grow in a stadium with a partial roof over it in Miami.
There we go. One of the lessons learned.
What do I know about grass? Nothing.
Probably a lot more now, right? Obviously, that's the list of shows is incredible. The question number 2, and I'm sorry. I'm sure there's been a lot, and I'm sure, like you said, sometimes you want to even forget the good shows. But is there one you could share? Is there a Spinal Tap, kind of moment where everything just didn't quite go according to plan, but you made it through, that you were able to share with us?
I mean, there's a lot of so mainly the shows you list, we refer to them as television specials, meaning they happen once a year. So I've always said that people in the television special industry have a 9-month memory, because there's no way you would say yes to that job again within 9 months. But after 9 months, you forgot how bad it was. So you're like, oh, I'll do it again. Then you get there and you're like, why was I dating her? So, here we go again. You got to remember. So I do try very hard to block these things out. In full disclosure, you did send me the question beforehand, so I had to think about it. Yeah. So I don't know what you want to hear. I've got a list. I've got the very first light cue I totally blew as a board operator on opening night. I can tell you, but I'm still reeling from it today, and it was literally over 32 years ago.
Wow.
An entire lighting rig that went down during a live show with no commercials because it was on PBS. I can tell you why Demi Lovato thinks I'm probably the strangest lighting designer she's ever had to talk to. Right. We could talk about the Super Bowl stadium lights going out at the Beyonce Super Bowl right after her halftime show. Right. You want to pick, or you want?
I get.
How much would you like?
I guess the list goes on. I certainly don't want to drag up, any painful memories.
Too late.
Yeah, sorry. Right.
I'm kidding. Those are all fun stories in a way. I mean, not losing the lighting rig.
I know what I could do here is, I know you've done in the past a series of different kind of podcasts. I know you've done some with live design, for example, relating just to a single show, and they're immense, listening pleasure as well. And in some of those, you touch on, the good parts of the show, but also, some of the tasks you had to get through on the way. Having to work with security clearance to fly drones in a no-fly zone. Yeah. And some of those stories, which are great. So maybe we'll park it over there and say to anybody watching, search certainly on the Live Design website, but any others as well, for any podcast that Bob has done in the past, because they're fantastic to listen to, and they've got the great stories in there. And it is.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you when my heart has dropped through the floor. The Lantern Festival had one really horrific moment. If you want to hear the story,
go on then. Now you started it. You can't back it.
It wasn't even on my list. But so I've come up with this idea. I've been working on it for 8 months, long before an artist was ever picked, that I wanted to do an indoor lantern festival that for the first part really looked like lanterns being released from people's hands, flying up as a lantern festival does, get people to watch TV, even technical people to watch TV and go, that's really cool. And then maybe to get, the even more technical people to go, wait a minute, it's indoors. Where are they going to go? They're going to get caught in the ceiling. And then, right towards the end, show that we actually have control over them and spell out a word. What is the word going to be? Probably love. But, didn't know yet. Again, no artist was picked yet, so no music was picked. But I've been working on it for a very long time. So I got with Intel again, and they, I said, it's indoors. They're like, well, we need indoor GPS. So we'll get to work on that. There's nothing like having a giant company that's motivated, and it's amazing what they can do. And they are an amazing group of people there. Really fun to work with too. So they work on this for months and months and months, unlike the Gaga one, which we worked on for only the 3 weeks we had a window for. And they got there the first day, set everything up. I think we flew day 2 or day 3, just a total test flight for us, 2 o'clock in the morning, nobody in the building could see anything. Honestly, almost perfect.
Right.
Spelled out the word one love, lots of adjustments, but good adjustments, right?
Right.
Take that 10%, take that down 10%, make that a little blue, whatever, like really good adjustments on the first night. We flew, I think, a total of 6 nights, including the rehearsals, flawless.
Right.
Well, when you do something that's never been done before in a high technology world and it's flawless, you gotta get really worried.
Right.
I mean, I get really worried. So sleepless nights are coming. You think you'd be happy or not happy. Friday, we get 2 passes at the rehearsal, and then we're done, and they're full run-through passes. There's no tweaking, there's no time. It's on the field, show, off the field. So you're doing it in real time.
Right.
And for no apparent reason, when the drones were set to launch and they preset in the air, because they're very unstable when they're close to ground, they went nuts.
Oops.
They shot all over the stadium. They were crashing everywhere. But I'm busy because I'm also the lighting designer of the halftime show. So I'm in the truck just hearing, mayhem. I mean, no one's getting hurt, but they're just like freaking, they're getting weird signal. I got to keep doing the show. It's mid-show. Everybody's screaming at me, what's going wrong? What's going wrong? Like, I don't know, spot 2, pick up, like I'm doing my show. I got to keep going. So, the show, that rehearsal finishes, everybody leaves the field, start talking to Intel. They're like, we have no idea, but some signal has jumped into the building on a frequency that can't broadcast. It's a very long story, which I'm not going to go into, but not because I can't, because no one's going to want to hear all the technical things. But ultimately, what it came down to was it wasn't Telemundo, but it was a Spanish broadcast television satellite truck outside the building on the wrong frequency, and his dish was pointed somewhat at a steel bridge, which reflected the frequency back into the building. Now you think, oh, well, at least you found it. Well, that was Saturday night after Friday that it was found. So going through all that, and I'm like, so we're good? They're like, well, we don't know, because if anybody else shows up willy-nilly and does the same thing, because they can, because they're outside the building, which is outside our jurisdiction.
Oh, boy.
So I'm absolutely 100% uncomfortable, because I can just picture lanterns starting to take off live around the world, and wing, right? So every half an hour for those 9 hours, you're waiting around the stadium to say, Intel, are we good? Are we good? Because they're looking at every signal they can find. They're like, yeah, we're good. And then an hour before kickoff, they call me up. We have a problem.
Oh, right.
Yeah. What's the problem? Like, we're seeing the signal again. We think it's coming from a police helicopter. There's one aircraft at every Super Bowl that's allowed to fly. It's a chosen police. It's the sheriffs, whoever. That's the only aircraft that can be in here at all. So we're like looking at, we're getting with the NFL. The NFL is trying to call the police, like, you got to get out of here. No, like, well, we can't get out of here. Well, and they're broadcasting a signal to their police station of their camera, watching protesters and things like that. A lot of weird things happen outside of Super Bowl.
Right.
So like, well, then you got to get on the other side of the building, because you're broadcasting across this building, and the signal is going to interrupt us. And of course, they're like, I'm sure they didn't say this, but they probably thought, who cares about a halftime show?
Right.
We're doing our job. And so my fear, of course, going all the way through the show was some incident was going to happen on the west side of the building, east side of the building. They were going to have to fly to the other side.
Right.
While we're still broadcasting. So it's like, and I keep saying to myself, why do you bring these things to this show?
Right. Why do you keep doing it?
If you just light it, they're happy.
Right. Yeah. Stick up with that.
But that Friday night is like, I don't know if it was embarrassing, but it was heart stopping for me, because I just thought, I put all these people in a horrible position.
Right.
Even Maroon 5, I potentially put them in a horrible position to try and pull off something that's never been done before.
Right.
Anyway.
How far do you push the envelope, I guess, is the thing. And
I mean, with me, I'm willing to go pretty far.
Yeah.
And if people are willing to do it, and you can tell me that you can pull it off, I believe Intel can pull it off. When they tell me they can do it. So they are problem solvers by far.
Right.
not problem identifiers. So they are
And
on
that's,
those.
I guess that's a part of it as well on so many of these shows as well, is obviously having a good team of people around you, who you can absolutely trust, while your attention maybe needs to be diverted elsewhere, and it's just going to be taken care of.
That's the only way any shows work, I would imagine. I don't want to meet the person who says I did it. I definitely didn't do it. I haven't done any show on my own. The only thing, if I do anything well, it's I collect the right people,
Right.
and I hopefully inspire them and give them the space to do what they do so well.
Hmm.
That's
Right.
certainly what I try to do,
Yeah. And
and keep producers away from 'em. I always say I'm the clown and barrel in a rodeo.
right.
I keep everybody away from my programmers while they're working. Like, don't
Right.
bother them, don't talk to them. I'll get you more time.
That's a good analogy. That's um, I'm sure over the years, you've obviously talked to many people and heard lots of bits of advice. What would you say is the best piece of advice that anybody's ever given you, either professionally or otherwise?
Sure, I definitely have been given a lot of advice, and I continue to get it, and I'll take all of it I can get.
Right.
Less scars I can have, I'll take them. I'll give you two famous people from the industry who have said some pretty good things to me. The first one's Walter Miller, a great director, producer, did every major show that you can imagine on TV. He just passed away recently, but he used to do the shows in Washington, D.C. with me every year. And sometimes we'd be flying back and, sitting next to each other. He's a very, very funny man.
Mm.
But we're on the airplane flying back to LA, and he comes back out of the bathroom, sits down next to me and says, "Do you mind if I give you some advice?" I said, "Well, Walter, I'll take all the advice you got." He's like, "When you get older and you go to take a leak and you think you're done, don't be in such a hurry to leave. You're probably not done yet."
Right.
You know what? I'm going to remember that.
Right.
Probably really good advice. The other advice came from Bill Klages, probably the most famous lighting designer for television, who I met up with at a very young age. Very luckily, he got me into his Klages Group lighting company, and got me into what is much more theatrical lighting than the rest of TV lighting would be. I started in theater, but then kind of fell into sitcoms for a minute because it was making money, but it really is just kind of not the most exciting lighting you're going to get involved in. And I ran into Bill Klages at one point in time. We became friends, and he took me into his company. And so now you go way down the road, and I just did Super Bowl 32 halftime show, my first show, and I was talking to Bill, and I said, I think I'm going to go ahead and become a full-time lighting designer. I think, I wasn't actually looking to necessarily do it. I just like to be challenged. I just always wanted to work in the business and wanted to be challenged, but I said, I think I'm going to go ahead and hang up the wrench.
Right.
And he goes, "You'll be fine." He goes, "Let me give you two pieces of advice." And I will tell you, he didn't explain these two pieces of advice. He just said them the way I'm going to tell them to you, but I will explain them because the truth needs some explanation. But he said just two things: don't be cheap, or you only get hired on cheap shows, and producers lie. And he's right on both cases. None of them to be malicious. And when he said don't be cheap, he's not saying make sure your rate is really high. He's saying don't do the show as cheap as it can be done, because they'll take it, but the quality won't be there, and then no one's going to hire you for a higher quality job. You're just going to work with people that just want to make money, but aren't actually looking to, do something that they could hang their hat on.
Right.
And it is those people that hired me first as a lighting designer. And I don't mean this to be mean, but I've always been thankful that they hired me and gave me the opportunity. And I'm now thankful that I can say no to them.
Right.
So, I give him credit for that piece of advice. The second piece of advice was producers lie. And he is 100% right about that. And they're not lying maliciously. They're lying out of this thing that's quite free. And we always see it on schedules, and it's called hope.
Okay.
So because producers lie, you're like, you get into these early conversations about, okay, we're going to like this, the set's like that. And I obviously, I know it's not an award show, but you're going to want to know that there's an audience. So I'll need to like this audience. Oh, I don't think you need to like the audience. I think we'll be okay if you don't like the audience. Well, but you're probably going to shoot the audience, so I should like the audience. I don't know if we're going to shoot the audience or not. It's like, right, but you can spin a camera around, but I can't just throw a light again. So what he's just getting at is, if you know it needs to be lit, light it. They're lying to you out of hope. I always tell production from there, like, what do you think of the schedule? I said, well, hope is more expensive. There'd be a lot less of it on this schedule. So I don't think we're going to make
That's okay.
But those, honestly, Bill was right. And it was funny how short and succinct he was, and then kind of walked away. I had to figure it out, but they were good words of advice. There's a lot of good advice out there. A lot of it probably has to do with how you manage your money and things like that, but maybe other people touched on that. So
no, there's some great words of wisdom. Absolutely. Now, perhaps that's what we need to do. Put a price tag on hope per hour and see what happens.
We'll always be over budget right away.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Realism comes into it. Obviously, you're a multi-award winning, top of your game designer. What would you say is your proudest achievement so far?
So I have two answers for you, only because they're totally opposite ends of a spectrum of what you might think of achievement. There's a saying that says that, a person's true accomplishments come from the passion they bring to the job, but the reputation they leave after each and every job. So, although I can't 100% speak to this about myself, people say nice things and I get comments, but when a friend goes, let's say, to a venue you haven't been to in a while, and when he comes back and says, "Hey, everybody asked about you and wanted to make sure I said hi," that makes me feel good. When the camera department asks for the lighting PL to be on their belt packs so that they can listen to my rant throughout the show. Right. It makes me feel good, because when I go to a job, I want to have a good time. There's a lot of tension in our jobs, but I still want to have fun as much as we can while we're rolling our eyes at what just happened or what's about to happen.
Yeah.
So in one way, on a personal level, I would say on the professional field of play, my reputation is probably the most important thing to me. And I feel like a lot of people enjoy working with me. And again, you can't speak to your own reputation, but that's the feeling I get. And so that is, if you said, when you're done, Bob, would people be happy? Would you be happier if people said, I loved working with him, or, well, he was a great lighting designer? I would much rather be that people loved working with me. On a more technical achievement, I think any Super Bowl halftime show you can walk away from is a good landing. But I'm going to have to pick the first 70 seconds of Super Bowl 51 with Lady Gaga when she was up on the roof, because going back to the Intel drones, but more important, I'd been trying to put a mass drone show together for several years, but nobody could do it. And then Intel came along and could do it. And that's not really the part of the story, but because I came up with this idea, we showed it to Gaga, and I say idea, I was like a mass drone. So there was no American flag. There was no story. She loved the idea of this technology, never really been seen before, working, and her being a part of it. And again, another long story, but we'll just cut to the chase. They were canceled. They were out. Come the day after Christmas, I had 48 hours if I could somehow keep them in. So it had to be outside. It couldn't be inside the stadium. They weren't working.
Right.
And so I decided to put together an apolitical, patriotic, if you will, statement. So I read every single thing you could read and listen to music on. And I took 3 pieces of Americana and took snippets of them to make one story. Her musical director did a great job of turning that into a song. I figured out where to stage her on top of the roof, what I would do with the Intel drones. And, so like Ricky Kirshner's, our producer's credit, and Hamish Hamilton, the director, and Gaga by far, they just let me go. So I created that entire first 70 seconds of the halftime show, and storyboarded it in a very comical way, if you've seen that lecture with the cartoons and things like that. And so for me, it's like, I'm very proud that I worked out the music, I worked out the staging, camera lenses with Hamish, and where the camera should go and how big the flight pattern should be, and then just the overall story that she was standing there alone asking for God, with light from above, and stars showed up, and then this land is your land. It was a very political time, right? The new president was about to be inaugurated, and this land is your land, and half the stars turned red, and this land is my land, and half the stars turned blue, and then they started to wrestle, if you will,
Mm.
as she finished up, but ultimately realizing that, the red and blue make what America is, and to appreciate that. And so I was very happy to be able to be a part of that and push that forward. And then we both jumped off the roof because I had to go do the show.
Right.
So, but that one I can certainly hang my hat on.
Yeah. No, it's a fantastic achievement. And it was a fantastic piece of television as well. And obviously, that's right. That's right. And knowing, because I've heard the lecture, but knowing some of the challenges behind it as well, make it extra
Yeah,
special.
if you're gonna do something really, really technical that's never been done before, I say embrace it. But know you're gonna have problems, and really know that unless you have a lot of time, the solution's gonna be creative, not technical. You're probably not gonna have time to fix the technical problem with technology. You're probably gonna have to fix it with creativity.
Yeah.
And we certainly had a lot of that going on.
Right.
So.
That's very well worth remembering as well. I think that's wise words for many occasions. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're obviously very busy when you're out there working, but when you're not working, what do you normally do in your downtime?
Yeah, I Googled that word. I couldn't find a definition of it. Actually, one of the nice things about television specialists is we do actually have downtime, because a lot of our jobs are 7 days. So sometimes they'll all collide together and you'll just do this mass run. But a lot of times it might be 7 days on and 10 or more days off. And then it'll clutter up again. So I actually do get a lot of downtime. About 10 years ago, I picked up golf. My brothers used to golf, and I didn't really have the patience for it. And it's a good thing, because no matter what bothers you, what you're worried about a show or whatever, when you walk on the golf course, by the third hole, you're so pissed off at your game, you've forgotten all your other problems. So it's like good therapy, right? I have a lot of inventions, as you know. I have a company called More Useless Tools. And my first tool was the pin splitter, the handle. We developed what eventually became ground control. We developed that on So You Think You Can Dance through More Useless Tools.
The PIG automated follow spot system, for anybody who's not familiar. Yep.
I have a putting light that's coming out for the practice putting greens at golf courses. I have a patent. That's my second patent. Working with fuel lighting. They're always at LDI. They do a lot of magnetic lights for party rental companies.
Yes.
We developed a track light for restaurants and museums that have to refocus their track lights a lot. And they have employees going up on ladders, which is bad, especially in restaurants. So you can focus this with a remote stick. It fits a standard track light system. I've got this crazy chandelier that I came up with the idea for. I mean, it's massive if it ever happens. I'm still trying to figure out how you make it. When you invent things, you have to take it all the way to the point that you would know how to manufacture it.
Right.
I haven't shown it to anybody, but it's like Las Vegas hotel lobby pig.
Okay.
But it's very cool. I mean, I've drawn it all up. It's very cool if it ever happens. I like to teach. I do guest lectures. I have two 90-minute classes about lighting for television opposed to lighting for your eye. And I've been doing that live in person until the COVID hit. And then I reached out to all my college friend professors, colleges that I'm associated with in any way, and offered it up. And many people took us up on it. And this summer, Alan Aylen and I, through the Hemsley program, which is a great program if you're not aware of it, we started offering up to all the schools that are associated with the Hemsley program. And he and I have been trading off schools, teaching, the difference of lighting for your eye opposed to lighting for the camera, why colors change and how you can control that. Everybody's going to be using cameras more. Not even just because of COVID, just because cameras are also much more prevalent. They're easier to, they're inexpensive. And I think everybody, whether it's iMag or whatever, you will have more going on with cameras. And the more you understand the balance of how a camera sees things opposed to how your human eye sees things, even for a live designer, your photographs will turn out, I think, a lot better, the contrast. So I do a lot of that. I like to travel, but they tell me that, you can't work and you got to stay home. So I don't understand this. I want to go hide in Italy.
That's going to be tricky, that one.
Yeah, here I am.
So you keep pretty darn busy then, all in all. There's lots going on.
I'm not a big sleeper.
That's interesting that you mentioned about, people learning more about the camera and how the camera sees stuff. And I think you're absolutely right, of course, that it's not just a television thing. It's everywhere. We're seeing within the concert experience, live concert experience, is that people are taking so many photographs, of course, with their cell phones, and when they get posted on social media, that's a big thing that artists care about, is how they're looking. So understanding how an iPhone, as well as, obviously maybe up to a broadcast camera, sees things is an important thing these days for any designer.
That is brutal. There's a certain performer out there, which I'll let her remain nameless, but she tells you no follow spots, never use a follow spot on me.
Okay.
And so it comes to a TV show, and it's like, never use a follow spot on me. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Right.
Like, I make a pretty good living out of taking care of aging white women on TV. So, I've been Streisand's consultant and Ellen DeGeneres' consultant, Debbie Reynolds. I mean, what do you mean you want a follow spot? Well, it turns out that somebody posted a photo of her at a concert, and the light was, super bright in the photo. Whether it was actually not in person, I don't know. And she was determined it was because of the follow spot, and follow spots are too bright. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Right. A little knowledge can be a dangerous thing.
Very good point. It's like, and I feel for these, live designers out there, they got 9,000 cameras pointing at it, and who knows what they're getting.
Yeah, that's right. It's tricky, but it's coming. That's for sure, in every aspect of what we do, and especially I think again with the COVID stuff, with so many things going to streaming services now, houses of worship and other things like that. Everybody's going on.
That's why we've been pushing this class through the Hempfley program, is to help all those students, because they're doing theater shows on camera right now.
Right. Yes.
Doing performances, and they're editing their performance together on cameras, and we're just trying to help them understand how you can actually. The lighting's not just it's contrast levels. You can have a lot of fun with lighting when the close-up is this tight, but you don't want to light in their face. You just backlight them. You could do that in theater, but you got people that are 200 feet away. They'll never see their face. But on camera, you can actually do a lot of interesting things with lighting. I think So You Think You Can Dance was always a good show where they just let us go. They took the leash off, opened the back door, and said, "Have fun."
Right.
That's fantastic. There was hardly any light on somebody, but enough to see the body moving.
Yes.
That's an advantage that TV can give you.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Quite different from the live experience. Obviously, you've worked around the world. Obviously, some of the things like Miss Universe have taken you to lots of different venues, globally. Do you have any one favorite venue anywhere? Well,
you and I walked into our favorite venue once together. I believe it was in Aarhus, Denmark, and it's called Buddy Holly's.
Right. That's true.
It's a lot like the lyrics from Hotel California. You can check in, but you can't remember leaving.
That's right. I'm not sure if that place still.
Remember leaving that night, but
that was a special night. That was a good night.
I would imagine a lot of people answer this question based around the crew, but the crew makes the venue. I mean, you take a bad venue with a great crew, and it's a good place to work.
Right. Yeah.
You can take a great venue with a horrible crew, and it's a horrible place to work. There is no fixing the Beverly Hilton in Los Angeles that the best crew in the world can't fix out, so just avoid that venue.
Right.
But like Radio City Music Hall, you go back after a second time, and you're like old friends. But I like the unique places mostly. So, like during certain administrations, it's really cool to work in the White House.
Okay.
We've been working there since Bill Clinton,
and
the caretakers of that building. When you get to know them and they get to trust you that you care about this museum, because there's a lot of paintings. There's one of.
Right.
And when they realize that you care and that you're just trying to make it look good, you get to go to some pretty cool behind the scenes places and see things, and that kind of venue is a really fun place to work under the right conditions. But Dave Grill and I did a show in Portofino, Italy. It was on PBS, and it was an Andrea Bocelli special. And he performed in the courtyard, and we lit the entire town of Portofino, and we were there for like 8 days.
Right.
The nicest people. There's like 4 restaurants, and we were allowed to light till 2 a.m. Then we had to shut down. And when we would shut down at 2 a.m., one restaurant would stay open called Jolly, and we had an all-Italian crew, Dave and I. And as soon as we'd shut down, they would bring out bottles of wine on the tables, put out pizza. So at 2 a.m., right there in the port, we would be eating, pizza and drinking wine until we saw the Mediterranean, saw the sun just like creep over the Mediterranean around 5 a.m. go to bed,
Yeah.
repeat. And so that venue is very cool. It's
Mm.
cool light of town, but also it's just a fun, really fun job.
Great experience. You've done a few things with Bocelli, I noticed.
Yeah, we've done Central Park, live in Central Park. I've done a Christmas special with him. He's obviously been on a lot of shows we do where he's a single guest, but that's actually more of my favorite type of show, is a single performer, full type concert, opposed to, a music award show where you've got 14 to 24 different performers coming in, and they get 40 minutes each, and there's no theme. It's just whatever they want at their moment. So I like the more universal themed type things. I just feel like from a designer, you can design the whole show from beginning to end. You can take a moment and try and lose the scenery and make fun special moments. And it's just easier for me to tell a story than to just provide for 7-minute moments.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Create a story from beginning to end with whatever chapters you want.
Everybody's trying to help tell the story, whether it's wardrobe, cameras, scenery, everybody. But lighting's a big part of that too. And I don't want to be the story. I just want to help enhance it.
Yes. Yeah. Take it on its way. Fantastic. Musically, well, first of all, obviously, as you mentioned, COVID-19 has had a drastic effect on the year, and a lot of us are under lockdown of various different levels. Musically, is there any one particular artist or any one particular album that you would always want to have with you, when you can't leave the house or the radio stopped working? Who would that be?
Yeah, so that actually, to me, is probably the funnier question. We used to have a different office, and Dan Reed used to work for us, and I'd get in the office before he would be, and there's no one else there. And Dan would walk in and go, "You freak me out." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I walk in here, and there's nothing. There's no music. There's no sound. You're just in this quiet room. It drives me crazy." And I thought about it, like, Dan, it's not quiet. It is so noisy.
Right.
I mean, it's not remotely quiet. I didn't even think about it. So it's like I don't need one more thing on top of it. So it's sort of funny because I'm more of a information junkie, and I am needing music to set me into the right mood. But having said that, I mean, I like everybody. I don't like anybody everything, but I like everything. I mean, I like Tone Loc. I mean, and I'm happy to work on a Bocelli concert, and love Aerosmith, and I grew up with Boston, and I like it all.
Yeah.
But some performers very little, but something. But so I like it all. So I'm kind of happy. I've got a car where you can just press a button and say, play this or play that, or give it a theme, and it'll just start finding music. And I'm actually kind of fine. I like the surprise. But I would say I'm a bit of Fiesta platter when it comes to the music choices.
To do it like that. So the playlists must be great, where it just cycles around and tries to predict what you might like. Roll on Pandora. Pandora's got a lot of responses to that question, actually.
Oh yeah. Well, what's funny is you get these rental cars with Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth's trying to be fancy, and it'll latch onto your phone, and it'll start playing your music without you knowing it. Because we were driving in Miami once on a job, and it was Bocelli Christmas music. I'm like, and we're thinking it's coming out of the radio, and it's not Christmas. Like, what the hell would be playing Bocelli Christmas music right now? And I thought, because I have all the show files on my phone, so that we listen to it while we're programming, and I don't usually delete them. They just these phones have so much memory.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I think I've got Bocelli. It latched onto my phone and just started playing music.
Right. Just randomly stuff.
I didn't have anything else on that file.
And perfect, of course, in Miami in the middle of summer to do that. Of course.
Right.
Always all right. If you were able to spin back in time and go and visit the teenage Bob and offer one piece of advice, what would that be?
Hair or makeup? Those would be my choices I would give you.
Okay.
Hair or makeup. Get the hell out of lighting. Get into doing hair or makeup.
Right.
If you latch on to a star who loves your hair or makeup work, you're set. You're going to carry a little bag around for the rest of your life. You're not going to have scars on your body by the name of shows. I mean, it's just getting hair and makeup. It's like a no-brainer. But so there's a lecture I do on basically how to what are your bosses looking for that are going to help you take care of your career, and how can you have a successful career? It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with what are your supervisors looking for. So I think, honestly, I would give it to myself. I would give the lecture to myself. The short answer of it is, your skill set is critical. It's critical to you. Because if you love what you're doing, then you're going to love coming to work. But at the professional level, your skill set's expected. So it's hard to impress your supervisors because you're able to do what you're supposed to be able to do. It's not that it's not important, but it's just hard to get up another notch in your reputation. But what really sets us all apart, not better or worse, but all apart, is our attitude, work ethic, and personality.
Right.
And our attitude, work ethic, and personality are really going to be your keys to success. If you have a great attitude, a great work ethic, and great personality, there are people out there willing to teach you any job that you have a passion to learn. But if you're like the best in the world at what you do, but you're a complete pain in the ass,
right?
People will hire you if they can't find someone else, but they're not going to help you progress. And whatever you think success is, I think it's choices. And when you get more choices, that's control, because ideally you're going to pick the choice that's taking you in the direction you would like to take your career, whatever that is. And then the more control you have, the more successful you are. So you can be successful every step of your career. The more choices, more control, that is success. And how do we get choices? That's based on our reputation, what other people think of us.
Yeah.
And if they like working around us, they will work with you. And when a person that's been working with you for a long time, they're great at their job, puts their hand up in the air, and this has happened many times, and said, I need to move on. I need to move up a notch. I need to move on to a next thing. I'm done with, being behind the console or whatever. And they've got great attitude, work ethic, and personality. If you don't help them, they'll be moving on without you.
Right.
And these are the people we're looking for, right? Because these are the things that are so hard to find. We hire people we want to go to dinner with, but that doesn't mean we should all be best friends and fake and laugh at jokes that we don't think are funny. This is genuinely, we must bring out the best in our personality, the best in our attitude. And if we love what we do, it's why your skill set's so important. Then you're probably going to show up to work with a good attitude and a good personality when it gets going tough, and you're on your 8th day of 12, 14 hours, whatever. And if you start laughing that the producer picked a square wheel and square wheels roll, you just have to push harder. But if that just makes you laugh instead of getting mad that he picked a square wheel, not a round wheel, then I think you're going to be happier in your career.
Yeah.
And that's what I would prefer everybody to be as happy as possible.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. All the way through. I couldn't agree more with any of those comments. Yeah. That worth ethic, just bringing it and being good, being nice, being on time, being fun.
Be on time. Set your watch ahead. I don't care whatever you have to do. Just lie to yourself about the call time.
Yeah.
Just this funny little side note, and maybe this is a bit of advice that was given to me. So we're going back to question whatever. And actually my proudest achievement will be if I ever forget to a question two. But I was working in theater forever at like $60 a day. Didn't matter how many hours you did. And then I got this job on a TV show as an electrician, and it paid $250 for 10 hours. So you're going to get more if you can do more than 10 hours. Overtime was like Brigadoon to me. I'd only heard songs and stories about it, but I'd never seen it. But I asked a guy once, a really good friend of mine later, I said, why do we get paid so much better? I feel like this is what I've been doing for the last 6 years in theater. He goes, well, you're getting paid to leave your house early enough to change a flat tire and get to work early.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? That's well put.
Yeah.
Leave your house early enough to change a flat tire and get to work early.
Yeah.
And we're paid to be reliable at the end of the day. So anyway, I went on a tangent. I apologize.
No. This is great. I think everyone's going to be enjoying listening to all of this. So yeah. If you could sit down for a cup of coffee with any one person, living or past, who would that be?
Pretty mean of me to bring somebody from the dead and make them talk to me, right? Because I'm like, the most boring guy I've ever. Why would you do that?
Right.
One of the tiny good things that's happened during this pandemic is we had started as a weekly Zoom call with Bill Klages, Dave Grill, Jeff Ravitz, Pete Radice, Jim Tetlow has been on it, Renee Logler, a Lifetime Achievement Award-winning set designer. A lot of cool people have jumped on this And it's been really cool, especially for me to be able to talk to Bill every week. And he's brought like 5 to 10 minute videos from shows from the 70s and stuff like that of his lighting. And when you consider the lighting equipment they had to work with and the cameras that were really horrible in comparison, as far as like almost 200-foot candles of light level. And I just did a Carrie Underwood Christmas special at like 9-foot candles.
Incredible.
So, it's amazing to do it. It kind of reminds me of Tuesdays with Maury, so that's been really wonderful. But since that is already happening, my answer to you is because I like to invent. Like I can remember my first invention when I was in 5th grade.
Okay.
I tied I put a bunch of eye loops going from my light switch over to my bed, and then tied fishing line to the top and bottom of the light switch and ran through the eye loops so I could turn on and off my light from my bed.
Right.
I think I would thoroughly, he's not going to be happy about this, but I would thoroughly enjoy a long conversation with Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay. Right.
I think it would be very cool to get his take on all of his inventions, but I think it would also be good if he doesn't die a second time in front of me out of boredom.
Right.
If I could take him around and show him where we've gotten, both with technology and medicine and everything else, and just get his take on it. I would think after a while he might go, "That's cool, but why didn't you guys think of this?"
Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Why did you do it?
Full conversation.
Yeah. That could be absolutely fascinating. Yeah. Yeah. He I mean, a remarkable life, a remarkable amount of achievements and foresight in some of the things that he was looking to invent as well. Yeah. First time we've had his name come up. That's brilliant.
Oh.
Brilliant. There we go. And then we've made it to our final question already.
My favorite.
It flies by. Well, I know you're good at this. I know you're obviously a key.
It's not my favorite because it's the final question. It's my favorite because I've worked on Olympics before, so it's my favorite.
Right. So once we finish the interview, Team USA are going to call you up and offer you a position on the Olympic squad. Now, it could be for the Summer Games or it could be for the Winter Games, but what are they going to call you up for? What's the sport you want to have a go at?
Desperation, but I mean, we're going to have a very clear conversation on the phone that if they think I'm going to bring any metal home, it's going to be pins in my leg.
Right.
Anything hanging over my neck. Paul Sharwell, Matt Firestone, myself, we did the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, and we watched a lot of Olympics. Right. We were in front of TV monitors. And I came to realize that number one, like the Winter Olympics need to be brushed up a little bit. We just got to add a little peril. I think like the men's giant slalom where they hit the flags. Those should be like thin brick walls, like as close as you want.
Yeah.
But these are things you're supposed to avoid, not just run over.
Right.
I also think like the ski jump, it's okay. It used to be really cool, during Wide World of Sports a million years ago. But I think I would just hang in progression, bronze, silver, gold, maybe about 6 feet apart. Everybody goes at once. You grab the medal you get.
Right.
I'm watching. Right.
Stick your hands out. Let's go.
I think that was the first year curling was in, and I was like, there is no way you can get an Olympic medal for a sport you can play half in the bag.
That's right.
Badminton, but there's just no way. I think you take the biathlon and you change the target for the shooting portion to that puck thing that they're sweeping down the lane.
Right. Yeah.
Those sports have got more interesting, right?
Yeah.
I know your question is quite simple though. Without question, I am the third man in the 4-man bobsled.
Okay.
You can't be the first guy because he's got to steer.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the second guy because when they all go jumping into the sled, if the first guy misses, you're now steering.
Right.
Fourth guy breaks. So you're dead weight. You just got to be the third guy.
You just got to run fast and then go along for the run.
Run fast, jump in, hang on. Right? That's it.
Right.
As far as dead weight goes, I might actually be helpful to our Olympic team.
Right.
But after the year that I perform, I do want the third guy in the 4-man bobsled to have the biathlon gun, and he's got to shoot at targets perpendicular to the track.
On the way down?
On the way down.
Right. Okay.
You're not doing anything anyway.
That's true. They're dead weight.
You get extra points if you get a target.
Okay.
Live viewing is allowed, but it's going to have to be at your own risk.
Right. Yeah, that's fair enough. It sounds like it's turning into a bit of a Super Mario game, this one.
It's not have too much time to think about Olympics.
Right. That's right. Way too much time, obviously. This has been fascinating, Bob. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been inspirational. It's been amusing. It's been everything that we always hoped this series would be. So thank you very much. It's been obviously great to see you and hear all of your stories and everything like that. And
I appreciate being a part of the larger group that you've some really big names and a lot of people I've never had a chance to meet. I appreciate being a part of it.
That's fantastic. So thank you again. Regards to everybody else down at 22 degrees. And now everybody knows why it's called 22 degrees. I look forward, obviously, again to us meeting up in person as soon as possible. But until then, thanks again. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.